Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today, I'm very happy to have another special guest. Today, my guest is actress Julie Cobb, who played Sue Cooper in the season 2 episode, The Airmail Man. Please welcome Julie Cobb. Thank you so much for agreeing to come and chat. It's such a nice opportunity to catch up with you.
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. So as I mentioned on the phone, anything I ask that you go, I don't want to, let's not, is all fair game.
My only concern is you'll ask a question and I'll say, I don't remember.
Oh, I do that. I say that all the time.
I mean, it's age, but it's also, I realize I have a body of work behind me and I don't remember. I think I told you something came up on the internet, a picture of me and the actor who played my husband, whose name I don't remember, on the Waltons. And I look so young. And I showed it to my daughter and even I look, much younger than I even was. So I don't remember a lot.
Okay.
But we can try.
It was Paul Michael Glaser who played your husband.
Oh, then I'm thinking of, that's right. Well, that's not who I'm standing with in this photo.
Okay.
So it maybe wasn't from the Waltons. Here we go. We're off to Of course it was Paul Michael Glaser. Of course it was. Now I remember.
Yes. And this was a season 2 episode, The Airmail Man.
Yes.
And you played his wife. And
it was in a string of, in a career, you have little episodes or a string of types. And that was in a string of jobs I had on guest roles on shows where I was pregnant. I was pregnant, I believe, in that episode.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, although I don't think you were particularly, I don't remember you showing it. I think it was early in the pregnancy, and that was.
Well, then maybe I was.
I mean, you were supposed to be pregnant, but see, this is how much I don't remember.
Well, I think if I was pregnant, it was, I'm sure I was a bit padded. Yeah. Anyway, so far, except for Paul Michael Glaser, don't tell him I forgot him.
Yes, Paul would be deeply offended that anyone.
Well, I actually saw him. I saw him some years ago in Venice, California.
Okay.
We had lunch, but that was, going on 15 years ago, 14 years ago.
Okay.
Anyway, we won't tell him. We won't tell him.
Yeah, I saw him it was about 12 years ago. We did a couple of events together, actually in Tennessee. And I don't think I had seen him since we did the filming and, but I remember, yes, the various different, he was such a cutie, so having a young, good looking guy as a guest star was always like, ooh, the girls were always like, oh, he's so cute.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you were a baby practically.
Oh, in season 2, I would have been 15 when we.
Oh my gosh! Yeah. But that's of the age. Yeah, Paul was probably cute. Yeah, for you, he was cute. He was cute.
Yeah. So, do you remember prior to being cast in the episode, were you familiar with the show? Because we were only in our second season.
Oh, sure. Oh, I loved the show.
Oh.
I remember more about watching the show. Good night, John. Good night, Mom. Good night. The good nights. I loved the show. The writing was wonderful in the show. And what's his name? Was wonderful.
Ralph and Richard and
Richard and Michael were wonderful. The casting was wonderful. The kids were wonderful. The direction. It was a very good show.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're all very proud of what we were fortunate enough to be a part of.
Yeah.
I said, if I'm going to be associated with a show for the rest of my life, I'm glad it's one that I'm proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do you remember anything about how you came to be cast? Was it just a regular audition or
Yes. Can you remind me of the director? I think it was
Robert Butler?
Butler. Yeah, I did remember that. He was a good director.
Yeah.
He was very busy in those years. And yeah, I had a casting probably with the casting directors whom I don't remember.
It was Pam Polifroni, so whether
Oh my
she
God.
personally did it or not, I don't know.
Oh my. Now she was responsible for so much work for me. She
Mm.
was so busy in those years with various shows at the same time. And I forgot that she cast that. Oh, she was, yeah. So I'm sure she had me in. And then I'm sure I read for him, Butler.
Yeah. Do you have any recollections or impressions from like coming onto the set, this show that you were familiar with, and the actual work?
I seem to remember being on location. I remember the biplane. It was a old fashioned, obviously,
Yeah.
plane. Uh, I remember the excitement of that. I don't think I went up in the plane. I think Michael did. I think that
Yes.
was part of the plot. Um, just the warmth of the company
Hmm.
was kind of equal to the show.
Hmm.
You come on as a guest actor, and it's not always that welcoming. But the Waltons was, I felt very, very at home. I don't remember how many days I worked. Those shows probably shot in 7 or 8 days.
6.5 we got.
6.5 and yeah. So I probably worked a few days. It was a good experience. It was a good experience. I think my scenes were with Paul. Um, have you seen the show recently?
It was a few years ago that I watched it again, which is why it's not sharp in my mind either.
I'm also trying to track down an episode Pam Polifroni cast of Gunsmoke
Ah,
with my father.
ah.
And I used to have a copy on disc, and I cannot find it. With my dad, so maybe I can find that as well. Anyway, I'll look for it.
Yeah. Well, as you said, you had quite a body of work. You have quite a body of work, and you were doing a lot of guest star roles around that time. Are there particular shows that do stand out as just really nice experiences, or characters you really enjoyed playing, or shows you loved getting to work on?
Yeah, yes. There, in terms of guest starring, I did a character on with Michael J. Fox on
Family Ties?
Family Ties. I had a fun role on that. And in a lot, I think the Waltons, I don't remember what year. My daughter was born in 83.
Okay.
So a number of the roles we're talking about were before that. But once she was born, she would come with me. Come on auditions and on the set. And so Family Ties was a lot of fun. I had guest stars. What was the show? Rossetti and Ryan. That was a fun show, and I had a good guest role on that. I did a number of miniseries and pilots, and the miniseries I did the first one they did of Salem's Lot with James Mason and David Soul and Bonnie Bedelia, and that was directed by Toby Hooper, who made a name in real slashers, Saw, the movies with blood and guts. But he was a wonderful director, and I remember the experience. We shot that in Northern California, as a matter of fact, and obviously, everything is shot out of sequence in little bits. When they had the cast and crew screening, it was so scary. We were it was so scary, and I think I have it somewhere on a disc. I'm sure it would hold up, even though the CGI and special effects are much more sophisticated now. It was scary, and the whole everyone saw it in the audience were, gasping. That was fun. I did a mini series of Brave New World, um, with a huge cast. Anyway, that was a thrill. I did a series called Charles in Charge with Scott Baio, which was on CBS for a year, and then off, and then it came back into syndication, and they recast the family, which was me and the kids, the husband and the kids. And so I didn't do the syndicated, but that was fun. I don't think it was a great show, a great sitcom, but we had fun every day, which was, terrific. And then doing this Gunsmoke with my father, Lee J. Cobb,
Right.
was thrilling. I had never worked with him. And I'm sure Judy, too, when you work with a wonderful actor, it elevates your work. And I think I was 26. It was just a couple of years before he died. He was only 64 when he died. And we did that, and it was thrilling, just absolutely thrilling. And it's a wonderful episode. It's called The Colonel.
So what was that? I mean, you come from a family of performers, and that's your whole family history. And you said it was a wonderful experience working with your father. Did you feel like it was, in terms of the work, just like working with any other actor, except he was such an exceptional actor? Or was there around the house, had he been an influence on you as an actor? Did he ever give you advice? Did the scenes play differently?
They did. It was not like, it was totally unique. That's a great question. He and my mother was a beautiful actress, Helen Beverly. They encouraged me once I demonstrated a commitment and some promise. He was very good about watching everything I did on theater and on TV. And he did have comments. I took acting classes. He didn't really believe in studying acting with a teacher, but I did anyway, which I benefited from, I think. But in the work on the show, it was very intimate. I mean, in fact, he dies in my arms at the end of the show, which was just very close to the bone. I mean, I like to think my performance would have been good with another actor, but I mean, I was just wrecked in that scene with him. So yeah, it was different and special. Yeah, it was. I cherish it.
Oh, and how tough to have lost him so early in his life and in your life. Yeah.
The second thought I had, I was doing a TV pilot when I came home one day and had to get the news that he died suddenly of a heart attack. My first thought was just being poleaxed by my own loss. The second thought I had was, the work he wasn't going to get to do, but we weren't going to get to see, which was true. So that was, it was tragic and hard.
Yeah. I mean,
Difficult.
Growing up within that world and with the work that he had done and the work that he was doing while you were growing up, What was that environment like? Did you go to sets at all? Did you get to hang out with these other equally famous people he was working with? Or was it just part of your life?
Well, a couple of things. My parents divorced when I was 4.5, but my dad also wasn't a kind of Hollywood butterfly. He didn't socialize very much, and also those were rough years politically. Uh, Starting to go into the House Un-American Activities era. Um, my parents' divorce was rough on everybody involved. So there wasn't a lot of hobnobbing around. Um, However, later, he and I definitely, they both remarried, my parents, but when I was older and would meet him alone for lunch, those were times of a lot of connection and discussion about, well, everything, life and growing up and philosophical things, spiritual things, political things. So those were precious years. He created the role of Willie Loman in Death of a Salesman on Broadway, but I was a baby. So we all went to New York, but I was a baby. So, and I would, of course, see all of his work. And he was famous. Be in a restaurant when I was a kid, people would approach the table, want to talk to him. He was gracious. I remember one of his films. It wasn't one of his better. I mean, he was in wonderful movies, On the Waterfront and 12 Angry Men, and, heavy hits and heavy hitters. This was just a kind of crazy movie called Party Girl with Sid Charisse. I don't remember much of the plot, but he was, I think, a bad guy. And I do remember a climactic scene where somebody shoves him off a balcony to his death, of a balcony in a hotel. And it was so shocking to me that, even though I don't know how old I was. Another film he was in called, I forgot what it was called, but he perished in a forest fire. The whole forest burned down, and what was that film? But I remember going to the payphone in the lobby of the theater because I had to just, hear his voice after the movie. Oh, I can't believe I forgot. Well, it'll come back tonight at 3 a.m.
And you'll send me a message. I want to thank Julie for joining me today for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. I will be back with more episodes, more of your questions in an Ask Judy, and more with Julie. Thanks for watching.